Hi everyone, Mickey from Flipping Spain here. I wish you could see this beautiful sea view that I'm looking at and working in front of today. Taking a little time out to pet sit and house sit on an island where there's lots of wineries and people with fancy houses. So just a free way for me to get a break, but also give me some time to make some more videos for you. So today we're going to do our first flip analysis. Now, I'm not in Spain yet, getting closer every day. So I can't walk through properties and get a really clear picture of what is needed in them. And I don't know really accurate numbers for what the rehab will cost. So you might think, how on earth can I analyze a deal? Well, we're going to reverse engineer our flip is what we're going to do. So we're going to set some goals. We're going to find a property and some comps. And then we're going to look at what our rehab needs to cost in order for that to make sense, or what other numbers we can adjust in order to make the deal work for us. Step number one, set some goals. So we're going to make an arbitrary goal and say that we want to make at least 20 grand on this project. And ideally that 20 grand would be 20% return on the cash that we spend. So with those goals in mind, let's go look for a property. Now we've been looking in Calahorra, but because there are more properties in Logroño, we're going to look at this for our flip. So I'm going to use Idealista, and first thing I'm going to do is get a feel for what's out there. So I'm going to do this by lowest price. I haven't put any other filters on here. We're just going to see what's for sale. So here we've got a 2-bed for $13,500 with no interior pictures. So that doesn't help us a whole lot. Same thing, 1-bed, not really interested in a 1-bed. Again, no interior pictures. No interior pictures. So we're getting a feel for prices, but we have no idea what these are like inside. Can see how big they are though, which does help. So for example, this house is 21,000 at 56 meters squared, 35,063 meters squared, 36,070 meters squared. So they're getting bigger. Here we go. So here's one with photos. So we definitely need to do a kitchen, definitely some rough bits. We don't have any idea of what it's like in terms of leaks or things, but you can also see that it's a 5th floor exterior without a lift, which is probably not our target because people that will rent that are going to want cheap rent. Now here's a house that's almost twice the size. It's probably a little further out, and it looks like a lot more work. The ceilings are very low, and there's no exterior pictures, which makes me nervous. Now this looks like a reasonable opportunity. Low price, 3-bed. It's in the university area, but again, 5th floor without a lift. So we might need to do some filtering to make this search a little more practical. All right, so let's go ahead and do a max price. So if we are $120,000 all in, then we probably don't want to spend more than 80 or 90 on the property, but we'll put our lead budget at 100,000. because that gives us a little bit of room to play with. We could do a minimum maximum size, but I think we'll leave that for right now. We'll do flats and houses. Definitely want at least 2 bedrooms. I've tried filtering by these conditions, but it doesn't really help. I don't think people are honest when they do it. And we could do by lift, but we still want to have access to things on the ground and 1st and 2nd floors without a lift. So let's see what we've got now. So this is 1st floor without a lift. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath. That looks like a small bedroom. Really tight space. But it looks like it would just need some updating. So it's something we could consider. So the price is getting pretty high now. All of these cheap ones are things without a lift. Well, let's try the next page, see what we can find. Here we go, 2-bed. This is in really good shape. Might be too nice for us. Yeah, I think that's too nice for us. There we go. I like the look of this. Partition walls, which can come down. Oh, let's put this on our list. Even just looking right here, we can see that this flat is 80,000 and this is also 80,000. This is a 3-bed and it's 74 meters squared. This is a 2-bed, 54 meters squared. They're both second floor without a lift. They're in slightly different areas, so that's something we could compare. This is definitely in better shape, but this would be the better deal for us because there's far more potential with a 3-bed than a 2-bed and so much extra space. All right, the price is getting quite high, so I don't want to look too much further, but we'll just take a little look through. So this is even bigger, similar price, without a lift, but it doesn't say what floor it's on. Looking pretty rough on the inside. Okay, so this is the same apartment. This is the thing that is helpful in Spain in the fact that listings are not exclusive. Oftentimes you'll see a flat listed 2, 3, 4 times by different agencies, but this one says that it's first floor. So whereas this one I might have eliminated it, here I'm like, oh, this is an option. We'll keep that on the list as well. So it's looking pretty good to get like a 3-bed that needs some work around the 80,000 mark. So the next thing we want to do is have a look at the map. Now we could start our search like this as well and just see what's for sale in an area in order to look for the exceptions to the rule. So what we want to see ideally is a bunch of stuff higher priced and then something much lower priced, and then we'll know that that's our opportunity. This is great because it shows our favorites, and we're going to zoom in on these two $83,000 ones because I think those are our 3 bedrooms. So let's refresh our memory. This is the one that is not in bad shape. It's just very dated. We have no kitchen. That's our bathroom. So those are 2 big ticket items that are going to need to be done. Right now we're looking around at what's nearby. Like this is 93. It's in nicer shape, but it's nothing fancy. This is similar price. It's 4th floor without a lift. That's a 2-bed. So what we need to do is take off our price limit and see what shows up when we do that. Hopefully we'll have some expensive houses. We have to zoom in a bit because there's more available. There we go. Now we're talking. So let's see what 275 gets us. That's a 3-bedroom, quite a bit bigger. Probably got underground parking. It's not that much more updated. And that's a huge difference in price. Let's see what 125 is. Oh yeah, I think we looked at this one. So it's quite modern. 3-bedroom, similar size, 2nd floor without a lift. Let's look at something really expensive. Yeah, penthouse with outdoor space. So that's not our demographic, we don't think. Let's be a little more moderate. Very traditional, has a balcony, which ours does not have. A dated kitchen, but much bigger. So just from that limited look, I'm going to say we could probably bump this up to our target price of maybe 150, because 125 is not getting you anything much fancier. So we would dive a lot deeper into this and look at a lot more properties. Maybe we'd cap it at our target sales price. Let's go 160. That takes away a lot of things. So there's an interesting gap between 125-ish and like 250. So we're probably hitting a sort of a sweet spot at that 125. But again, this is conjecture. So what we could do is just do a little squidge in a couple other areas and see if we see one of those great opportunities. Like, so this one we have 53,000. This is a 2-bedroom. 3rd floor without a lift, no pictures, right next to 235 and 150. See if we see anything else like that. Here we've got a 65, 4th floor without a lift, 110, 4th floor without a lift, but look at that deck. Yeah, I'm just not interested in doing 4th floor without a lift, so let's take that off. Not really seeing a massive opportunity. So I think what we found is pretty good. So let's just run the numbers on that and see where we end up. Let's take a little closer look at some of our comps. So this is the 3-bedroom that is $150,000. Flooring looks good. You know, walls are still going to need paint. Once we get all this crowdy furniture out of there, that's got great closet size. Some paint. Kitchen is up to date enough. We could redo these tiles, maybe put in some new appliances, but we don't have to build a whole new kitchen, and it's bigger than the one we have. But the kitchen itself is not that large, so it's a good comp. It's not like way better than ours. Aesthetically, it's in better shape, but it's not going to need the massive overhaul that our kitchen and bathroom need. Let's look at this one, which is $130,000, quite a bit bigger. Got the parquet floor, which is dated, but we can work with it. All right, so this is, aesthetics. That, tile flooring. I'm just not a fan, but I'm going to have to get used to it because that is pretty normal. So that's a nice bathroom. It's obviously been updated, although we may have some damp issues on the ceiling. Where's the kitchen? Oh, this has a little terrace. Okay, so our kitchen is fairly small. It is definitely dated. This would be a question of like comparing it to our property. Would we gut all these cabinets? Would we paint them and redo the hardware? Appliances look pretty new. Might want a new stove. It's not miles better than what we're buying. So if ours is in the same price range and ours is much nicer or more refreshed, then we're going to sell quicker. And then this was our $125,000 one, which is exactly the same size as ours. Still a 3-bedroom, same floor, all of that. This has new flooring. Now, when we walk through, we might find that it's a really terrible job, but it looks fine. Probably don't need that wallpaper, but again, it's fine. And you gotta like tune out the furniture because even if you like it or not, because these might be built-ins and they might stay, but they might not. So we'll have to ask about that. Yeah, tiny kitchen. And we could do our kitchen like this where it's a U shape. Get more cabinetry in. Countertops are updated. Hood and range are updated. So now we're looking at something that's not that much more expensive than ours, but has a nicer kitchen. So that is a little worrisome. Yeah, if you stripped out all the furniture and everything, you're going to get something very similar to what we will have when we're done. So that's a really good comp, and it's the cheapest one, which is not encouraging. But these are the things we need to know. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start our deal analysis. So we've got this basic spreadsheet here. I know it doesn't look that basic, but I've gone ahead and put some information. I've got a link to the listing. I've got the basic details here. I've got the year it was built. That's kind of important because it tells us, depending on what the rules were in Spain, if there's things we should look out for like asbestos or other hazardous materials or poor construction practices that we might have to redo. I also calculated the price per square meter because that's just a basic way we can evaluate how this property compares to the other ones around us versus just price on price, because if one's much larger, that's not an accurate comparison. So we have our comps over here. We found these 3 different ones. They're all roughly similar in size. They're quite a bit more expensive per square meter, which is good. So we know our purchase price is €83,000. We're not going to worry about negotiating that right now. We just want to look at the numbers and see how they play out. We don't know what our rehab costs are. We're going to take a look at that in a minute. And then we don't know what our sales price is, but we could start with the lowest comp. So over here we've got our comps, 125, and our sales costs are probably going to be a certain percentage of that. So let's just say 3%, just to be safe, and that'll be our net return. Yearly expenses we're going to look at because if it takes 12 months to rehab this property, we're going to have these costs. So again, I've just assumed this 2% like we talked about in the other video. Probably a little high, but that's okay because we're being conservative. Insurance we think we can probably do for around $600 a year. And then utilities, we're going to be using a lot of electricity if we're doing renovations in there. So I've done 150 times 12 months just to give us a number to put in, and we don't need to worry about property management. So these are the expenses it will cost if we hold the property for a year. Closing costs, when we buy the property, we know there's going to be about 10%, and that's because we've done our legal research in our other video. Just as a refresher, we can look at cost to lose. What are the taxes and expenses? So we're going to have to look at transfer tax, all these, we don't have to worry about these, notary and registry expenses, real estate agent fees, which hopefully we won't have to pay because we're the buyer. Don't have to worry about this stuff. So all of that, we remember, added up to about 7 to 10% of the property. So we're going to assume 10 to be safe. So let's try and figure out what our rehab might cost. All right, so we're just going to look for clues in the photos. Obviously, we need to walk through the property to get a really good sense, but you know, we've got a floor that's not great. Might want to replace that. The walls don't look in terrible shape. We could probably paint those and be fine. We're going to need some new window treatments. Ceilings are high, which I love. So there's an alarm here. So hopefully that means that our electrical system is fairly up to date. This is just, you know, rough. So either we're going to be doing a lot of sanding and painting or we're going to be replacing doors. Or is that a broken window? Yeah, broken window. Okay, so add that. Hallway looks fine. Like the ceiling doesn't look terrible. Light fixtures can be replaced pretty easily. It's clean at least. Okay, so our kitchen, this is a small looking kitchen and it's absolutely empty. So we're probably going to want to rip the tile down, but all the fittings are there. This, I don't know about this stove fan, and then we have this extractor fan here. That light switch looks ancient. So we might have some electrical work to do. So this is going to be a cost, but again, it's a small kitchen, so it won't cost that much. And if we can make a small kitchen really nice, then we're in good shape. At least we don't have to rip anything out. And this is all got to go. The tile is not horrible, and it doesn't look like it's in bad condition. And this is tiny. So we might want to do something like a wet room in here, which would mean retiling because we'd have to put the proper backer board on it. Got to figure out how to do some storage in here, or we can do a shower in here. Yeah, obviously I'm not standing in it, so I don't know. But definitely need to do some work there. All right, so let's plug in our numbers. Now we know we have to do a kitchen. It's a small kitchen, so I'm going to say 8,000 will get us pretty far. Then we have to do a bathroom, which is going to probably be more work. So let's say 6,000 for that. And then we're going to have some random stuff, possibly wiring. We know we have to paint. So let's just throw in another 5K for that and say that our rehab's going to cost 19,000, which is pretty affordable, all things considered. And of course, I'm basing this off my past experience and also videos I've watched, people who have done renovations recently and talked about what their costs were. So again, this is a ballpark, but what we're doing here is we're reverse engineering. So we don't actually have to have the real numbers. What we need to know is what it needs to cost in order to make sense for us. All right, you'll notice that the spreadsheet looks a little different because I had to do a little tweaking to make our numbers come out right. But now we have down here, this is our total investment, $110,300. This is basically what we've sold it for. This is what it cost us to hold it. So here's our net profit, $68.90. Plus we're going to add in our appreciation because we're going to be generous right now. So our target return was 20% of our cash that we spent. So $22,000, which we are not anywhere close to. Our cash on cash return in actuality is 10%. So that means some numbers need to change. And here's where we can just have some fun. I think this is a pretty conservative rehab cost, so it would only go up from here. So our best bet is to get the price down. Let's see what happens if we just knock 10% off that. Make it 74,000. Let's make it 74. That's a nice round number. All right, so boom, if we can get it for 74,000 and we're going to spend roughly 20 on it, then we will actually improve upon our target return, which means we could probably pay a little more for it. Let's see what happens at 79,000. We're getting 16%. So that seems to be our sweet spot. Sort of 75. We're going to be really picky. 76. Now, the thing is, we always want a contingency. So we don't want to be bang on this number. So I'm going to say this might cost 20% more. So let's make this 22,000. And then let's take that back down to 73. I think that'll put us in a good spot. Yeah, so that gives us a little bit of leeway. We'll make 20 grand off it. So not too bad. So now we know. Now we know what we need to negotiate on the price. Now we know what our rehab costs need to be. And then we can go and research the actual rehab costs. But when I get to Spain, it will make it so much easier because then I can just go and get quotes on what would it cost to do this bathroom? What would it cost to do this kitchen? And I'll know immediately if it fits my numbers. Let's just play the game a little more and say that we have to pay full price. They just don't want to negotiate with us. And our rehab, we'll keep our rehab the same. I think that's reasonable. Then we can ask ourselves, what would we have to sell it for in order to hit our target? So we've got a comp at 130. Let's see what that does for us. Takes us up a bit, but not much, of course. It's only 5 grand. Now we've got a comp at 150. Well, that's beautiful. So let's go somewhere in the middle here. So that's the other way to do it. So say we have to pay full price. We've got these rehab costs. Then we have to sell it for 140 in order to come in at our sort of target area, which, given this, is not crazy unreasonable. Let's see what ours is. 86. So that's a really high price per square meter compared to our comps. So that might not be achievable. So this isn't looking like a great deal at this point. And I think that's just because we tried a little hard. Like we were hoping for something that was really just cosmetic versus something that was a total rehab. In part 2, we're going to go look at another property that is either less of a rehab or more of a rehab, but a lower price. And we'll see how that compares to this one. All right, thanks for sticking around. See you in the next video.